It was another loss for the Indiana Fever Friday night. I'm Scott Agness of FieldhouseFiles.com at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. In a game, the Fever led by as many as 13 points in the first half, but then they surrendered a big run to the Washington Mystics, a team that probably is looking more towards the future than the present. But this team played really hard, competed, had some bright young stars on that team. They used a big run bridging the second and third quarters. Then the Fever offense we saw get a little sticky. It stalled out. They started to turn it over after just 2 turnovers in the first half, and we ultimately saw the Washington Mystics control the second half en route to an 88-84 win over the Indiana Fever.
We were just kind of slow, and every time that we're slow, especially defensively, it just somehow affects our offense. And so I think the thing that we just have to continue to do that kind of got us on the run we had before the last couple games was we were aggressive at the opposing attack on defense, and that led to easy transition buckets. That led to everyone being aggressive and on their front foot on the offensive end. And we have new players, and that's okay, but we just have to adjust, and we need them.
We over dribbled at times. Our off-ball movement wasn't there. We did a lot of standing. It's almost like we gave the ball to Kelsey and just tried to watch her work. And that's not when we're at our best. I mean, yes, certainly we want to have the ball in our hands, but we've got to continue to get movement with and without the basketball. It was getting stuck. I mean, we want to play 0.5 to 1 second basketball, and we weren't. And it's got to get moving. And
the Fever have now dropped 2 in a row, 4 of their last 5 games. It's a tough situation. I think we can all acknowledge this current circumstance that they're trying to figure out, that they're trying to deal with. But at the same time, some of what we're seeing out on the court's got to be ultimately frustrating, right? Because both for them and for you fans as well, given the fact that they have been in all these games. And even late, they've had those opportunities to get the go-ahead basket or to take the lead, for example, over the last couple of games. I think that's what makes it all more frustrating, because this was supposed to be a week that even despite the circumstances, you could really try to take advantage of. You're playing the Fever are the bottom 4 teams in the conference standings, and after handling a Chicago team that frankly is just not good, they have struggled in their last couple of games. And all season long we've heard them talk about how they've struggled to put together a pure, full 40-minute game, and that continues to be the case here in this loss. And it's not just Caitlin Clark being out. That is the ultimate piece, the seismic piece, obviously. But it goes well beyond that, obviously, starting with their point guard situation, where they don't have 3 of them. It even goes back to the start of the season when your biggest offseason signing, DeWanna Bonner, wants out. That completely altered the way in which this season has gone. And so it's gotten to the point where this week they signed a point guard for a need basis. They added Kyra Lambert from playing overseas. Has a great story, has overcome several injuries, is smart, has 2 master's degrees, can play the point guard spot, but get this, she's also never played a minute in the WNBA. So it's so much to ask for her to come here back to the States, get here to Indiana, get 1 practice under your belt, and that's why you didn't see her, for example, tonight. Now the difference you saw with Odyssey Sims here in Game 2, which I'll get into in just a minute, but it speaks to kind of the current Fever desperation at that point guard spot, and is also the latest example of why the WNBA, with this new collective bargaining agreement that hopefully they're able to ratify in the fall or maybe by the winter, by January like last time at latest, is they got to expand roster sizes. Too many teams. This goes beyond the Fever. Too many teams are having to use hardship exceptions too often. That should be a rare use. And if it's not, you have to rethink roster sizes. Now, obviously, adding 2 more teams next season, which convolutes things and makes things a little bit more complicated, but that's probably another rant and a story for another time. But I think you all can see the need for all teams from that perspective. And more than that, too, by the way, is point guard's the toughest position to lose someone from. It's the extension of the coaching staff. It's the quarterback on the floor. It's the player that gets you organized, the player that sets up maybe a final play, for example. And so the players talking post-game admitted how it's still an adjustment period, especially Sophie Cunningham. Remember, this is her first year with the Fever, so all of this is new, this whole experience. But now she's had to slide over from really an off-guard spot to become the primary point guard, at least certainly to start games. Now, ending games, they're finishing with Kelsey Mitchell as the primary ball handler and all that. But so many changes, so many at one times is a lot for a team. And we're not even factoring the emotional and the mental toll that all of this continues to take on the team.
We know that after our injuries, our margin for error is smaller. And I think it was something like a 22-7 run, the end of the second, beginning of the third quarter. And those are hard to recover from.
You hear Steph there, but even Sophie acknowledging post-game some of the challenges, many of the challenges that they face this season, and says they just got to get back to playing their identity. They got to be tough again. They got to be playing hard, and they got to be consistent about it.
We've had some hard injuries this year. We've had some different lineups and roster spots. And, to be frank, I don't think anyone else around the league thinks that we can do it anymore. But I think that our group does. And I think that we just have to get that confidence back. When we're clicking offensively, defensively, we're scary. And not a lot of teams can beat us, even with the roster that we have right now. And so for us, it's just remembering who we are. It's our identity. We got to get back to being dogs, got to get back to being aggressive, being on our front foot, and not allowing teams like this to come in here and outwork us.
Now, Aaliyah Boston led them with 20 points, 9 rebounds. Mitchell, 14 points, 9 assists, but just 1 of 6 from three-point range. Struggled offensively, but visually just didn't look right. It seems a lot of minutes probably wearing on her. Look, she's leads the league in total points scored this season. I think 19 games with 20-plus points. So she's had a career year, certainly, from an offensive standpoint. But a couple times she had hard falls down on the floor. A couple times I saw her. It was kind of deja vu, but felt like she was kind of holding her groin area, much like we saw with Caitlin Clark to an extent. Hopefully she is okay, but after Sunday's game, then she can get some rest and more treatment that I think is probably necessary after the grind of this season and what they're having to deal with. But I think that probably more than anything explains Kelsey Mitchell's performance in this one, despite leading them with 9 assists, trying to set up other players. Now, otherwise, we saw this coaching staff tighten the rotation down to just 8. No Chloe Bibby, one of their formerly hardship exceptions, signed to the rest of the season contract. Instead, we saw Michaela Tipson inside to much more, I think, match up defensively and to grab rebounds, which she does oh so very well. But that was one different thing that we saw in this game. Now, the big picture is something we all have to start paying more attention to as we wind down the regular season here. Basically a month left. And after these games, the Fever were passed in the standings by the Golden State Valkyries. Yes, the expansion team. They're on a roll, a hot streak. They've won 4 in a row. And now the Fever have slid to 18-16 overall. 7th in the standings. Remember, you got to be top 8 to earn a playoff berth. Now, Sophie Cunningham said she doesn't really pay too much attention right now to the standings, trying to keep a narrow focus about what they need to improve, about stacking days like they've reiterated all season long. But admittedly, they don't want to lose 2 in a row.
Of course, you don't want to lose 2 in a row, especially here on your home court. But for us, we got to flush this one and move to tomorrow. How are we going to get better tomorrow, or how are we going to go get Connecticut?
Now, talking about the point guard spot as well, Odyssey Sims, who they just signed a week ago, played twice as many minutes as she did this past game, finishing with 11 points, 3 assists, and just 1 turnover in 27 minutes. But they still lack that leader, that punch, and that playmaker from that point guard spot. And look, that's something now we know very clearly they're going to have to deal without the remainder of the season. And felt like, especially in the fourth quarter, you could sense it was kind of, we're going to try to win this with the players that got us here. Talking about the starting 5 in particular. You talk about high minutes for some of these players. 6 minutes basically for Lexi Hall. 33 minutes for Kelsey Mitchell. The other starters all playing at least 26 minutes. And they're going to have to shoulder a lot of the load, but you need someone at that point guard spot. And right now, Odyssey Sims is looking more comfortable in that role.
Yeah, she did. I think the first game was a lot of nerves. Being out there for the first time. She looked really good in practice yesterday, and it carried over today. She's much more aggressive to the rim, much more assertive, I would say, on both ends of the floor, including communication. And that's what we're going to continue to need from her.
Giving myself grace. I said I played with Tosh, played with Kelsey, and I played with Lexi before. Everybody else I haven't played with, so just continuing to learn the plays. Like I say, you have to learn fast. We have a quick turnaround on Sunday, so this one definitely hurt. The last 2, of course, but we still got to look forward. Like we still got a lot left in this season, but it's about what we can control, and we can control how we play, how connected we are offensively and defensively, and it's just a matter of just getting back to that. And when we get back to that, like Sophie said, we're dangerous, and we're going to come in tomorrow, be ready to get better, push each other, and get this win against Connecticut on Sunday.
Now, very quickly here, the Fever have to sharpen up. They'll have a film session coming up on Saturday to then take flight to Connecticut, where Sunday it's an early game, but you really need to get that win. You need that bounce-back win after dropping 4 of the last 5 games against a Connecticut team that's frankly not very good. And that can serve so many purposes after that game if you can also get that win going into a week that is very favorable for once for this Indiana Fever team. You got 4 days between games, so that helps with rest, with treatment, with having legitimate practice time, to reevaluating groups and rotations and the way in which you're going to ultimately finish the season. Like Stephanie White said, the margin for error is small. They got to figure it out with this small group. It's not been kind, the schedule, the injuries, none of it. But they're professionals, and that's what you got to do to wrap up this season. There's just 10 games left. That's it. Less than a third of the season left here, and 6 of those 10 games coming on the road. And so it's go time as you see teams like the Valkyries, like the Sparks, and frankly, like we saw tonight with a Mystics team that played a little bit desperate, that was feisty, that was physical, and made things very challenging.
We've got to understand the sense of urgency that it takes, and understand that and recognize that the margin is small, and we have a team that plays really hard, and often we talk about, we've got to marry execution with our energy, because at times our execution's really sloppy.
A reminder again, it's a 1 o'clock start coming up on Sunday, Fever at Connecticut. From Cambridge Fieldhouse, I'm Scott Agness for FieldhouseFiles.com.